Here's something interesting. Got a rotten string of bad luck ahead of me now. That is, if you believe in any of these various superstitions. Some of you may be convinced that I've doomed myself, and some of you may think superstitions are ridiculous, but we all, at least at some level, participate in them. Today is Friday the 13th, which many believe is unlucky, so I thought we'd talk about some interesting superstitions and where they might have come from. I think many of them originate because as humans, we seem to want to match causes with effects. Someone did a thing, and afterward, something good or bad happened. Therefore, the thing they did must have caused it. Never mind all the times they did the thing and nothing bad happened. Confirmation bias leads us to connect the effect to a cause, no matter how illogical. I'm sure many of you have experienced yourself or a friend saying something like, "Oh, my team only wins or scores when I'm not watching, so I better not watch the game today." Sports is a world full of superstition. Many players wear certain lucky items of clothing or don't wash their socks or various other things throughout the season. After leading the North Carolina Tar Heels to a national championship in 1982, Michael Jordan decided his practice shorts were lucky and wore them under his Bulls uniform after joining the NBA. In order to cover them up, he needed longer shorts than his teammates wore, and this is often credited as the reason for the change in style throughout the league. UNLV coach Jerry Tarkanian used to suck on a wet towel after doing so in a high school league title game one time. Patrick Roy, one of the best goalkeepers in the NHL, would talk to the goalposts saying they were his friends. It's often cited that NASCAR has no green cars because green is bad luck, but that's not actually true. The former Argentine footballer Sergio Goycochea, apologies on the pronunciation, apparently relieved himself onto the pitch before every penalty kick. His teams would shield him, and he claims he was very subtle and nobody complained. And of course, no one should ever mention that a pitcher has a no-hitter going during a baseball game, because why tempt fate, especially if it's the Cubs? The theater is another place full of superstition. Even many outsiders know of the prohibition against wishing someone good luck before going on stage. Instead, you should tell them to break a leg, which sounds kind of insane, actually. Hey, I hope you break your leg. Love you. See you later. The origin of that one is debated, by the way. Some people believe it's simply a superstition of your luck being the opposite of what you hope for. So you should hope for something bad and then something good will happen instead. As the band 21 Pilots noted in their song House of Gold, "Since we know that dreams are dead and life turns plans upon their head, I will plan to be a bum, so I just might become someone." Other theories for the break-a-leg tradition include a translation from a Yiddish pun on a German phrase. Greek audiences stomping or banging chair legs on the ground instead of applauding. Or performers breaking the leg line, which was essentially a curtain that standby performers would stand behind, and breaking the line meant getting an opportunity to come on stage and get paid. Also in the theater, you're never supposed to mention the word Macbeth. It should be called the Scottish play, because a coven of witches put a curse on it, apparently, or something. And apparently lighting 3 candles, wearing blue, or bringing a peacock feather or a mirror on stage is also a no-no. There are a lot of superstitions around mirrors, actually. Ancient Romans believed that mirrors contained fragments of our souls, which is why breaking a mirror is said to bring bad luck. But why 7 years of bad luck? Well, because apparently that's how long it takes for a soul to regenerate. Beliefs about the soul show up in several superstitions as well. The souls of executed criminals might have something to do with the bad luck caused by walking under a ladder, for example. One theory says that criminals had to climb a ladder to the gallows, and then the spirit had to descend the ladder after dying, leaving the person's restless soul beneath the ladder. And telling someone Gesundheit, meaning health, or God bless you after a sneeze, comes from a fear that the soul might escape. And on the topic of blessings from gods, ancient Egyptians believed that the shade from an umbrella was sacred, and opening umbrella indoors, where light couldn't shine on it, was an insult to the god of the sun. Sorry, sun god. So what's the issue with Friday the 13th? Well, one theory on the origins of the unlucky number 13 involves Jesus' disciple Judas being the 13th one to arrive at the Last Supper, or that he sat in the 13th spot at the table, whatever that means. I actually saw this repeated over and over again on various supposed facts websites while researching this, but the Bible says nothing of the sort, and I couldn't find any actual credible sources for Judas being the last to arrive. Many of these sites also connect the Friday part to, of course, Jesus' crucifixion, but also to the eating of the apple by Adam and Eve and Cain's murder of Abel. But again, I couldn't find any credible sources for either Adam and Eve or Cain and Abel's stories happening on Fridays, and the Bible has no mention of what day it was. Another dubious claim that is often cited is the arrest of hundreds of the Knights Templar on Friday the 13th of October in 1307. But this event, as the cause of the superstition, comes from the novel The Da Vinci Code and not any actual historical documentation. A more likely source is an old Norse myth about 12 gods having a dinner party. The trickster god Loki shows up uninvited and tricks a blind god into shooting another one. Thus, having a 13th guest is unlucky. Pop culture references to Friday the 13th, such as the novel by Thomas William Lawson from 1907, and the horror movie released in 1980 and its sequels, have certainly helped to spread the superstition even more. Friday the 13th is only unlucky in certain parts of the world, too. For example, in Spain, Greece, and Georgia, Tuesday the 13th is considered unlucky rather than Friday. And in many places, other numbers are unlucky. In Chinese, Japanese, and Korean languages, the word for sounds like the word for death and is considered unlucky. Also in Japanese, the number 9 sounds like suffering. Italians often consider 17 unlucky, and Afghan culture has the curse of 39. If you have an unlucky number in your culture, I'd love to hear about it in the comments and the reasons for it. Personally, I would consider 13 my lucky number to the extent that I believe in such things, which is very little. I would probably say that 13 is my favorite number rather than lucky. My wife and I were both born on the 13th of different months, and so our birthdays have occasionally been on Friday the 13th. In fact, if it hadn't been a leap year, my 13th birthday would have been on Friday the 13th. I also chose 13 for many of my sports jerseys when I had the choice. And of course, many people don't like the number 13, and I tend to be a bit contrarian in these things, so. The singer Taylor Swift actually is on my side on this one, as she embraces the number 13 as her lucky number, sometimes even writing it on her hand during concerts. There are many other bad luck superstitions in various cultures, such as pointing at a rainbow, placing chopsticks straight up in a bowl of rice, killing a ladybug, calling a rat instead of a long tail, hanging a horseshoe with the ends pointing down, because the luck might fall right out. Black cats, crows, hares, giant anteaters crossing your path, chewing gum at night, giving someone a yellow flower, sweeping over someone's feet. And of course, many people have their own little superstitions they have created themselves. In fact, one I just made up is that if you watch this video and don't share it with 4 other people within 2 days, your cousin's dog will get fleas. So, better get right on that. All right, I'm gonna go pick up some face down pennies and step on a bunch of cracks. Sorry, Mom. Here's something interesting. It didn't work. Okay.